So rising above the noise is always challenging, but I think you counteract that with a quality of product, a quality of offering, and a real focus on meeting the needs of a specific group rather than trying to be all things to all people.
Driving sustainable growth for a B2B company can be daunting, especially when trends in marketing are evolving so quickly. As a savvy executive, you know that the road to success is continually under construction. So you have to be on the lookout for new insights to help you drive growth. Welcome to Trend Spotters. Our goal is to sift through the noise and provide practical wisdom from B2B business leaders to help you improve your sales and marketing. In each episode, we have frank 15-minute conversations with leading-edge marketing and sales experts who are driving growth for companies every day. Here's Candyce to introduce today's guest.
Today, I get to talk with Rick Carlson, the founder and CEO of SharpSpring, a marketing automation provider. SharpSpring was founded in 2011 and is growing quickly. At the end of Q2 2017, they had over 1,250 agency partners and nearly 6,100 companies using the platform. SharpSpring has a very unusual business strategy. Instead of targeting end-user companies, they decided to focus on digital marketing agencies. These agencies can resell the platform for any price they wish and deliver services around the technology. This model turns the typical channel strategy on its head. Rather than treating partners as a channel, SharpSpring treats them as customers, and they've built their entire company around serving these digital agencies and helping them grow their businesses. So listen in as Rick and I talk about how they arrived at this customer focus and how it affects everything they do throughout the company. He talks about how the focus has made it easier to be heard above the noise in the marketing space, easier to close sales, and easier to support and retain customers. We also talk about how SharpSpring avoids channel conflict. Full disclosure, Propel Growth is a SharpSpring partner. So now let's dive into the conversation. Thank you for joining me, Rick. It's such a pleasure to talk with you. I've been looking forward to this conversation for some time.
Yeah, thank you, Candyce. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always fun to talk a little bit about SharpSpring and the market. And so hopefully I'll say at least one or two things that are interesting for your listeners. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's start there. You're in a crowded space, marketing automation. What made you decide to go into marketing automation, and how did you arrive at starting SharpSpring?
I've spent my career in sales and marketing and kind of started in sales and really graduated into marketing. I'm not one of those people who blends those two disciplines together with any carelessness. They're entirely different, but I do have experience in both. And as I gravitated towards marketing and really learned the power of segmentation and so forth, I was actually in the internet security space and was exposed to a competitor of ours, actually, Marketo, and really found what they were doing to be very, very interesting. And this is pretty early on. And they were extremely, I would say, email-centric. In fact, if you think back many years ago, our industry was often referred to as email automation. And back then, Marketo was very email-centric, but I was really kind of blown away with the power and the promise of what they were attempting to do, which was enable kind of real-time behavioral-based segmentation and highly personalized communication, which is kind of the holy grail for marketers. At the same time, I saw what I thought was an opportunity. They were very enterprise focused. I think they remain pretty enterprise focused. I believe they were, our instance when I was using them at our, and I wasn't directly in charge of using their platform. I was really more exposed to it, but I think our company was spending $75,000 or something like that a year on Marketo. And I said, you know what, this is a really neat platform and has got some great promise, but it's the kind of thing that all businesses, even very small businesses, can use, and it's clearly the way things are heading. And at the same time, there's a lot of things that it's not doing that I would love it to do as somebody who's trying to solve problems for small business. So a broader range of features and functionality. And I became excited enough in the promise of the technology that I decided to go after starting SharpSpring with the purpose in mind mind of bringing it in a more affordable, easy to use package that was accessible to all small businesses that would have a need for them, a need for the services. So that's what I set out to do with SharpSpring. And not long after that, we realized that digital marketing agencies were a really important factor. And I guess we'll probably get into that in terms of influencing and really implementing these tools. And so we ended up focusing a lot on digital marketing agencies as we grew our business.
So the channel model has been something that most of the marketing automation companies have struggled with. We were a Marketo partner actually early on in 2009. I think we became a partner 2008. And channel conflict was a challenge for them. And then we looked into partnering with HubSpot. And again, there was a channel conflict issue that we really couldn't overcome. How did you guys go about that? Did you know about those channel conflicts early on and figure out a way to address it differently?
Well, certainly we didn't know about the channel conflicts with Marketo and HubSpot. We had kind of no inside information there. But in my past, I had run channel organizations, and I actually joined companies who had messed up their partner relationship. You know, one of the companies who I won't bother to name here that I went to work for had jumped back and forth, not in any malicious way, but just really trying to find what would work for the company. But they went back and forth between direct model and a partner model, and really ended up alienating partners that would try to build their business around that company, only to find that company competing with them on the kind of the next executive administration. And so, long story short, I had a lot of experience with channels, done both good and bad. And when we started to hone in on the digital marketing agency market, I really wanted to try something. We started out with more of a traditional channel model. And what I mean by that is we, I think, ultimately mistakenly thought of digital agencies as potentially a sales channel for our platform and a way to get our platform in the hands of the SMBs that these digital marketing agencies serve. In reality, though, we settled on something that's wildly different. And we realized that the digital marketing agencies, really didn't think of themselves as resellers. And we listened carefully. I was already very focused on not competing with agency partners. And to this day, we have a kind of a squeaky clean reputation in that regard. But what we really did that I think was fairly revolutionary is we decided to think about our agency partners not as a channel. Instead, we viewed our agency partners as our end customers. And when you shift that thinking, and I'll get into more detail on this in a moment, but when you make that shift, it really enables you to put yourself in the shoes of your partners, your in our case, our digital marketing agencies, and build something that made sense for them, not just from a product perspective, but from a business model perspective and pricing and terms and, the whole bit. So I'll stop there and we can certainly dive into more details on that.
So you mentioned that you guys have had a really clean record in not competing with the agencies. How have you done that?
First off, it's just built into the entire business. So I'd say 90% of our revenues roughly come from our agency partners and through our agency partners. And it's just something we decided to do very early on. We actually arrived at this model like a lot of startups. We were kind of figuring out our go-to-market strategy. And we were really thinking about, how do we not compete with these juggernauts like HubSpot and Marketo that were just so well-funded and had a many, many year head start on us. And we kind of quickly realized that these digital marketing agencies out here were growing and were influential and were more sophisticated. And, our technology is pretty sophisticated for the average SMB. And it just seemed like a perfect fit. And we looked around and we realized that everybody else was kind of, nodding, I think, to digital marketing agencies and maybe using digital marketing agencies as a channel. And we just decided to change that and kind of turn it on its head. And when we made that choice and we started to get traction and real realized that this was something that was going to be a cornerstone for our business, we built in every safeguard that we could think of in terms of, the way we pay our salespeople, commissions and so forth, and the way we vet leads that come in to our business, such that there's very, very little chance that we bump into our agency partners. We steer clear of offering services that agency partners would offer, and we really view ourselves as a tool that, when placed in the right hands of a digital marketing agency and married up with their skill set and know-how and experience, has the power to bring really excellent results to their clients. But we're never going to be in a position where we offer those services. And so that gives us kind of a really nice complementary relationship with our agency partners, where we provide them a really powerful tool, but the tool is just that, a tool, without it being placed in their hands, without their experience being applied to it.
So interesting. You're really leveraging the agencies also, I think, as tier one support, which I think is pretty smart, so that their relationship with their customer you never come between their relationship with their customer.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably a good time to get into more detail. I've made some kind of grandiose statements about not thinking of agencies as channel partners and turning things on their head. What we did was we really decided that the agency was our end customer. And when you make that decision, it allows you to think about, how do we best serve these guys? And if you're going to serve an agency partner, the last thing you want to do is stand between them and their customer. So what we do is we license our agency partners our platform, and we frankly, we don't tell them what to charge their customers for the platform. They can give it away if they want to their customers. They can charge full retail, and we have agencies that run the gamut between those two extremes on a customer by customer basis. So we have agency partners that have a fantastic relationship with one of their clients that's on a great monthly retainer that has worked with them for years, and they give that client SharpSpring. They're able to do that because we don't set the price, and we don't have a direct relationship with the agency's client. It's wildly different, really, than working with anybody else who's going to kind of mandate that this is what you charge for the platform, and we want to bill your client directly and have that direct relationship. Our agency partners think about the margin that they make on the license fee as, I think, a nice to have. But really, our agency partners are, I think, interested in the services that they've built around implementing marketing automation. So they may mark it up or they may not in terms of the SharpSpring license as they bring that to their client. But really, what marketing automation enables them to do is provide fantastic results for their clients, which also mean billable hours and revenue for the agency. And so it really all kind of works together very, very nicely. And the eureka moment for us was really thinking about our agency partners as our primary customers. And I think that's a term that's overused these days. Partnership is kind of cliche and it is thrown around. But we want to be excellent partners to our agencies, and we work very, very hard to enable them to build better, stronger businesses for themselves, and we grow right along with them. That's just worked out fantastically well.
So I want to transition a little bit into how you marketed the business, because you're in a crowded space. Marketo, HubSpot, and all of these other organizations, plus the agencies themselves, have created what Mark Schaefer coined the term content shock a few years ago, where there's so much volume of content out there that it's really difficult for a company, particularly in the marketing industry, to be heard above the noise. Then in addition to that, we ran into the truth about companies like HubSpot and others, and HubSpot's not alone in this, where the lead generation efforts that they were using their inbound marketing strategies to do were not actually the levers that were driving sales for their organizations. It really was as sales driven, but they were still creating a tremendous amount of marketing noise out there, so it's hard to be heard. Can you talk about what you guys have done to be heard above all of that noise?
Sure. You've raised a couple of different issues. I do want to touch on the one that you mentioned in terms of, and this isn't about HubSpot, but in terms of you mentioning that HubSpot is a kind of a sales-driven organization, which is a little bit ironic. They're also credited with coining the term inbound marketing. So that would be a fun topic to discuss. But to answer your more direct question about how we kind of rose above the noise, what we did is we focused. That was also part of our digital marketing strategy. It's a lot easier to focus on the 50 to 100,000 digital marketing agencies around the world. Those are kind of estimates that are thrown around fairly regularly. It's a lot easier to focus on those businesses in that vertical, not just with a message and with marketing, but with a product that actually serves this specific group in a more meaningful way. So when I say focus, I'm talking about the entire company, not just marketing. But from a marketing perspective as well, it's just much, much easier to focus on specific group, a segment that you've got unique advantages with when you're approaching them. And so again, going back to our business model, which is absolutely the most unique advantage that we have, we're able to talk to these guys and rising above the noise. I think both HubSpot and Marketo both spend more than $100 million, maybe $150 million a year on sales and marketing at this point. So rising above the noise continues to be a big challenge for SharpSpring. But what makes up for that is once we do begin to talk to somebody and they understand what it is that we offer, it's just a no-brainer for them to sign up with us. So rising above the noise is always challenging, but I think you counteract that with a quality of product, a quality of offering, and a real focus on meeting the needs of a specific group rather than trying to be all things to all people.
The way we first heard about you was that big mailing that you sent us, a FedEx box with root beer, which Phil loved, and the little root beer cozies and a T-shirt. And we had never heard of you before. But it worked.
Thank you for that. I did not know that was that was one of our most creative and most loved promotions. That's exactly right. I should have thrown creativity into that mix as well. But actually, we were only able to send you that package because we were focused already on digital marketing agencies like yours. And that means we could spend a few more dollars to get your attention. And we could only do that because it was a narrow market that we were going after, and because we just knew that if we got your attention, that we had a high likelihood of winning you over with the actual product and business model and pricing and service and all the rest. And so it all kind of blends together, right? I might have gotten the attention of some other vertical with something very similar. But if the needs of that vertical weren't met in the same way, then that promotion wouldn't have worked because we wouldn't have been able to close that business and really afford a promotion like that moving forward. So it's all integrated. It's all integrated and it's all dependent on one another, your marketing strategy and your product and your sales and service and all of it. And I think it really boils down. We talk a lot about, as marketers, segmentation when it comes to messaging and the rest. But it really is beneficial for the entire business to think that way. So that's great. I was unaware that we got you with the root beer campaign. For your listeners, we sent little T-shirts in there. Kind of a complex thing. It's pretty hard to describe on this podcast, but we had people putting their pets in these little T-shirts and shooting pictures of it and putting it up on social media and so forth. It was a lot of fun.
There was a letter that accompanied that described SharpSpring. You knew we were an agency. You knew who we were, and you made it clear in that letter that this was personal. This was for agencies, that you were focused on agencies. So that vertical focus that you're talking about, I think, is so crucial. And so many firms just don't get it, that focus on the customer needs to go through the entire organization. So it's interesting that you bring it to a close that way, because all of our podcasts so far have been on this subject of you've got to focus on the customer.
Well, it's the number one thing, and it seems so easy. It's like one of the old, it's like the old axiom in the stock markets. It's easy to make money, buy low and sell high. Well, focus on the customer, right? That sounds so easy, and yet in practice it isn't, especially when you're a startup and you're really trying to get your bearings and trying to, understand your market and everything else. And the thing that really served us well is that we picked our market, we figured out market fit, we began to see traction, we listened. We hopefully continue to listen. And, we've just really focused the entire company, and it's just shaped. We have a saying around here that, we work with digital marketing agencies, and we built our business around digital marketing agencies, and it affects everything that we do. So it affects everything that we do is really a meaningful statement for us. That's what it's all about. So it's good to hear that it's resonating.
It is. I think we should close now. We've run out of time, but thank you so much, Rick. This has been a great conversation, and I'm sure that it's going to prove useful to some of our listeners.
Very enjoyable. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Many thanks to Rick for sharing his insights. I have really enjoyed this conversation. My biggest takeaway is the critical importance of choosing a small and very specific target customer base and then focusing all your resources on serving this audience with excellence. It sounds counterintuitive, but focusing on a small target audience can actually deliver outsized results. Plus, you can do it with relatively smaller investment in both marketing and sales. And SharpSpring is definitely proving this to be true. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. You can learn more about Rick and SharpSpring at sharpspring.com or visit propelgrowth.com/trendspotters and scroll to episode 7. There, you'll find a transcript and links to Rick's website and social profiles. And while you're there, check out some of our other episodes where we go into more detail about things like creating an ideal customer profile and developing a channel strategy. Join me in 2 weeks for our next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. We hope you found value in today's episode and would welcome your feedback. For more marketing tips and insights, visit us at www.propelgrowth.com. And would you do us a favor? Tell your friends about the TrendSpotters podcast. Thanks. And we hope you'll join us for our next episode. You can subscribe to the podcast via iTunes or Stitcher.